Hoge Jahns.
Look at that.
I like that.
That was a surprise from our producer, Kent, there. I was not expecting that. I like that.
Cheers, everyone.
Yes. Unfortunately, I just have water today. I already drank my coffee. Yeah. No, yeah. We got to hydrate. We got to get through this. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday morning. We are live on Hoge Jahns on the YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. We've hit 15,000 subscribers on there, so we appreciate everybody that has jumped on there. And quite frankly, honestly, if you're still one of those podcast listeners, which we love you very much, the OGs, it would still help us if you would go on the YouTube channel and hit subscribe, even if you plan on,
listening in your car.
Yeah, that was just fine, which is how I listen to almost all my podcasts anyway. So nothing wrong with that, but rating and reviewing the show on the podcast platforms and subscribing on YouTube regardless does help us. So we appreciate the support. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Hoge Jahns. Find us at hogejahns.com, and all of the merch is available there as well. Johnsy, where do we start? It's been a tough couple days. The message coming out of Hallis Hall is still the same. Everything is fine.
They're close.
They're very close.
Fields is close.
Close to what?
I don't know.
Being able to beat the Broncos or
just scoring more than 10 points.
I'm sorry. It's cringe right now. It's I get it too from like the coaching standpoint. There's only so much you can say. But I went on a little rant on our post-game show on Sunday, and I still think there is more that you can say at those podium sessions to make the fan base feel a little bit better. But this sort of, I don't know. Is it fair to call this like somewhat of a being in denial?
I don't know if it's in denial. It's just more coach speak. I feel like the we're close cliche is just part of the coping process.
Do you think, I guess my question is, do you think that Matt Eberflus really does think they're close?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Then that answers the question. Then they're not necessarily in denial.
He's not going to stand up there and say, we're so far away, we're screwed.
No, but he could go up there and say, hey, look, we're looking at everything this week, and everybody's, got to feel like they're, fighting for something here, and nobody's safe. We're literally going to look at every position group, every position, and evaluate, including the coaches, and come back on Sunday and see if it's better. Like I think, I don't know. I just think that that's a better message than being up there being like, yeah, we're so close. And I don't know, Johns, when the players then follow up yesterday at the podium too, talking about how close they are, that seems to be like it was the message on Monday morning.
Whether that's PR speak or carry over from Eberflus's message, I don't know. I don't think they're close. They may look close against the Denver Broncos. Like, this should be a close game because the Denver Broncos are also a pretty bad team. Could be worse than the Bears, maybe. So this is a kind of a battle to see who's worse in a sense, but I don't think this week you're going to get a clear picture of like who the Bears are or what they're going to be. I think there's a lot of problems they have to sort out, especially on Eberflus's own defense.
Yeah, well, let's start there because we get it. There's a lot of talk about Justin Fields. There should be a lot of talk about Justin Fields. There always is, for good reason. But this defense stinks, dude.
So right now they are 20th against the run, so not so bad. 30th against the pass, and in Pro Football Reference's more conclusive advanced measurements, they're 31st overall. The defense ranked behind them is the Denver Broncos at 32nd on Pro Football Reference's rankings. I could get more from True Media here in a bit, but yeah, it's not good. It's not good for the defensive-minded head coach who had pretty good units for the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, and here's more. I don't know if you saw this tweet going around the other day from at Ollie Connolly, who went into EPA, expected points added. These are all defensive metrics of the Bears defense under Matt Eberflus, including last year too. So it's like since he got here. 32nd in EPA per play, 32nd in dropback EPA per play, 32nd in pressure rate, 32nd in pressure rate with 4-man rush, 32nd in sacks per game, 32nd in yards conceded per coverage snap.
Is that good?
This is bad. I mean, like, and so
bad.
And yes, you can point out, okay, they traded Roquan Smith. They did, yes, we get all that, but it would have been one thing for the Bears to be going through an offensive struggle again. That's eternity here with this organization. But usually they can lean on having a good defense. If you hire a defensive coach, you can't be last in every metric that matters 20 games into this thing.
See, I'm willing to try to separate the two seasons because, well, you mentioned Roquan Smith, you mentioned Robert Quinn. They did trade their best two players. There were injuries. Like, I'm willing to distinguish between the two seasons. But at the same time, if you want to look at this season, like you spent all this money on your defense, 2 new linebackers, new pass rushers. What are you getting? Like, did you notice Tremaine Edmonds against the Chiefs? Like, he has to be one of your best players against the Chiefs.
I noticed him walking to the locker room late in the game.
That's when I noticed him too. You notice when he was missing. I guess that's kind of a good thing, but also, like, where was he before that? Yannick Ngakoue, $10 million for 1 sack over 3 games. Marcus Walker.
Yeah, he didn't pop at all on Sunday.
I get that the Chiefs have a pretty good offensive line, but you spent a lot of money trying to fix your defense, or at least get it better to where it was last year, if we're going to separate the two. And you're still among the league's worst.
And again, I just point out that regardless of what the talent is, like, Vic Fangio showed up here with bad talent, and you could still look at them and be like, okay, this is a cool scheme. Like, they're doing cool things there. You get him some players, and like, this scheme's going to work. Good coaches can still, I'm not saying, be lockdown defense without talent, but they could still be middle of the pack.
Want to hear another damning stat? This is like alarming, because I don't think this is going to change for the rest of the season. The Bears are dead last in third down defense. Third downs, of course, right? Do you know what the conversion rate against them is right now?
In the 80s?
No, it's not that bad.
70s?
60 freaking percent.
Okay. It feels like it's in the 80s.
Yeah. 60%.
So what do you make of that? I mean, I can't. Okay, so they played the Chiefs on Sunday. All right. But, guys, anybody with eyes could see, like, the Chiefs were barely breaking a sweat in that game. It seriously looked like they could do anything they wanted. And it should not look like an overmatched high school game at the NFL level. This is the NFL. All 32 teams have players that are the best in the world. That's why when you hear the Bears are 12.5-point underdog, it's like, whoa, that's a big number. But it wasn't even close to big enough.
Truthfully, I think you could just look at Baker Mayfield's numbers against the Bears and against the Eagles.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. So, okay, the Chiefs are one thing. The Bucs, they struggled all last night to move the ball against the Eagles. Even the Packers, if we're going to go back to week 1, The Packers could not score on the Saints until late in the second half. And good for them, they came back and won. But that was not an offensive showing. Granted, they were down Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, but they were down those guys. They were down Christian Watson against the Bears too, and Aaron Jones got hurt in that game. So any way you draw it up, it's just not promising for this defense.
If we're ranking excuses, like Matt Eberflus's top one right now is the injury situation. Like you're down to backups, like young, inexperienced backups in your secondary. At one point against the Chiefs, you had one starter playing in that secondary. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. I understand that. I just don't think it should be this bad. And if you want to include last year's body of work, I guess there's just more context right now that tells you that either, one, the scheme doesn't work, or two, they still need a lot of personnel help in order to make this scheme work. Defensive line's not generating any pressure. The coverage is suspect. And the defensive coordinator isn't blitzing to help generate pressure and all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of problems going on. I understand that there was a lot of injuries in training camp. These players didn't play together. I understand the chemistry thing, but come on. To your point, it should not look like a varsity football team against a JV one.
I just think trying to claim that they're close is just, it's somewhat disingenuous, to be honest with you. Now, if you want to look at the
what, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to switch this to offense just a little bit here. I mean, you want to go through the list of offensive problems, and you could say, oh, yeah, like there's this example on this play where they don't pass off a stunt. There's this play where they have a delay of game. There's this play where, they're struggling with the silent count. There was this play where they clearly had some blocking confusion. There was this play where DJ Moore didn't run a great route. There was another play where DJ Moore dropped the ball. If, all those things come together, they have a good offense. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a lot of things to say that you're close.
A lot of
those are all things that happened on Sunday.
It's a problem when you're looking at stuff like that and you think it can be a difference when there's certain trends emerging.
Mm-hmm.
Can I read you some advanced stats?
Yeah, let's go through these.
All right, from True Media. Number one, the Chiefs attack quarterback Justin Fields differently by playing less zone coverage than the Packers and Buccaneers. Kansas City was in zone coverage 38.9% of the time. The Packers and Buccaneers were at 92 and 84.6% respectively.
Yeah, I find that concerning because I would have expected better results. And this is something that showed up on the tape for me, the all 22 Johns, that I wasn't. Look, the Chiefs defense is good, so we got to bring that up. There were a lot of plays where you zoom out on the all 22 and they are in man coverage and everyone's covered.
It's true.
Like, no one was getting open. And there are a couple times where you got to chase Claypool, mailbox, hand up, and he's got half a step. And I think that ball needs to be thrown. Like the one jump ball he did throw up to Chase Claypool that didn't get caught. But, it's still a very low risk throw because the chances it's intercepted, it's probably going to get knocked down if it's not complete. So I don't really know what to make of that. It's a little concerning to me, though, that like Darnell Mooney had one target and 0 catches. I mean, maybe we are guilty of overrating this wide receiver core.
I also think the quarterback has to give them some chances sometimes.
Yeah. But I don't have it, in front of me right now, but just off the top of my head, I don't remember a single play where I'm like, Darnell Mooney's open here, you got to throw it.
No. Well, the playbook felt a little bit limited. Everything felt limited because the defense was on the field so much, but some of it actually looked like the Buccaneers offense where it looked like a max protect play action with only a couple guys running deep routes, shot plays with a couple of outlets at the end. But, when Baker Mayfield was running that, he was throwing trust routes. He was trusting Mike Evans to be there on the comeback, 30 yards down the field. I mean, he was throwing the ball before Mike Evans was even out of his break.
Anticipation. That's just not. We've been talking about that for a long time. That's just not going to be Justin.
All right, number 2. Over 3 games, the Bears' average distance on third downs is 7.72 yards. The Bears have been in shotgun 82.6% of the time on offense.
Yeah, that's the scheme stuff that sort of has me a little confused. Now, if you're going to be behind the chains, that's going to certainly cause you to be in shotgun more. But I still thought we were going to see a run first outside zone offense. And I still think they have the running backs to do it.
Do you think Luke Getsy doesn't trust his backup center and backup guard to get off the ball?
Probably. I mean, that's the only reasonable explanation I can think of for them doing what they're doing. But I don't know. There's still chunk plays there in the running game. It's not like they're getting, TFL'd 5 yards back when they try to run the ball. It's still been there for me.
Yeah. Well, the first down, second down efficiency isn't there. When I was watching the film with Josh Lucas, and I know we have one more game now to go through, but he was trying to highlight how predictable things were. Like, failed first down pass. Here comes the make up for it run. And it was consistent. It just... I can't tell you how many times he said they're in shotgun again. With a mobile quarterback like Fields, maybe you would want him getting on the move almost instantaneously with some boots and stuff like that, some different play actions, but there haven't been a lot of that. Everything feels a bit predictable. And this is a scout's take, a guy who's got years and years of experience. That's what he's seeing. Yeah. And I feel that way too. There's some predictable qualities about the Bears offense right now.
No, the one thing I will say is, and that's obviously true that there's predictable qualities. You can even see it like when they're trying to run duo with the way these defensive linemen are just grabbing onto the offensive linemen to not allow them to climb to the linebacker.
The second level.
Like they recognize it right away and they just hold them, and it's technically a penalty, but you almost never get that called. But real quick, I think that I do sort of understand the philosophy of, okay, we're running zone read and they're keen on Justin. Well, let's take advantage of that by just handing it off, because now you're taking a defender out of trying to tackle the running back. And they did do that a lot on Sunday. Like you could see they're running zone reads that are basically automatic gives, because they know that they're keen on Justin and they're picking up their 4 or 5 yards by handing it off to the back. That's sound. I'm cool. That might explain why they're sort of in shotgun as much, just running as much zone read that are just straight gives, because they're like, oh, we'll take our 4 or 5 yards. There's nothing wrong with that. I still think, I'm not sure that's helping Justin though become a better passer. I'd rather see more I formation, use the fullback, outside zone, shot plays off of that play action. And they did a little of that on Sunday. But
I'd like to see that 3rd and 7 average get down to a bit. 3rd and 5.
That's
3rd
bad.
and 4. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's among the league's worst. Among many stats that are for the Bears. Among the league's worst. All right, number 3. Back to the defense. And Matt Eberflus's second game in charge of the Bears defense. The Bears barely blitzed at 7.3%. Over 3 games, only 2 teams have blitzed less percentage-wise, the Cardinals and the Bills. The Bears have 1 sack this season. The Bills have 12.
Yeah. I mean, they must have just been scared to death to blitz Patrick Mahomes. And I sort of get it. But when I'm talking to players in the locker room last week and they almost sound giddy over the idea that Flus is calling the defense because he likes to dial it up more, and then there was some signs of that against the Bucks. This is quite a departure from that in week 3. And I get it. I mean, you're playing Mahomes. Pick your poison. But that's just not going to be. I feel the same way about this, Johns, as I do about when we talk about Justin just being an anticipatory thrower. Like, it's just not what this team is.
No, I mean, statistically, like if you let Mahomes out of the pocket, like it's a serious problem, especially when he's going to the right. He had, just in terms of like a feel for the quarterback position, like watching from the press box, like I literally hit Kevin Fishbane like a little, elbow. I'm like, did you see that from Mahomes? So he scrambles, steps up to his right, and now he's moving to his right, rolling to his right. He went like right down the line of scrimmage. So aware, like directly down the line to keep the play alive, to keep his pass option alive. I think he eventually ran for a few yards, but it just struck me, just in terms of the quarterback play that we've been watching over the years, how he just literally hugged that line of scrimmage so he could keep the pass option for himself alive before finally giving up on what he could see down the field before running out of bounds. Like, it just impressed the hell out of me. When you see it live, like that, I mean, that's something.
High level of awareness, playing the game with incredible amount of confidence, obviously. That's why he's the best right now. The Bears are close.
Come on. I know we're not buying it.
But
who said that a lot? Was it Mark Trestman who said that a lot? Like, we're close. Speaking of like predictable offenses, I'm gonna give Dan Durkin, our old friend here, like a shout out. Do you remember when Dan Durkin would literally call out the plays of Mark Trestman's offense in the press box as we're watching
it? Yeah, I do.
Like, that was predictable. Like, this feels the same way in a sense. It's, at least we're getting to that point. I don't know if it's like, did you hear Mike Lombardi's criticism of Justin Fields?
No, but
like it was like more of a defense of Luke Getsy. Like,
speaking of predictable, I could probably cite it word for word without hearing it.
There was no mention of throwing passes through keyholes or anything.
Okay, the keyhole, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yes, I do. The keyhole.
I miss those days where Tariq Cohen is like going on Twitter and defending Mitch Trubisky. Like, those were good days. But the criticism was, you have to go look it up. I'm summarizing here, paraphrasing a ton, but it was, what do you expect Luke Getsy to call for this quarterback? That was his argument, basically.
Yeah. More runs.
Leave it all out there.
More runs. I mean, I'm being serious. Like, I get that. This almost feels, Johns, like it's like we're gonna find out as fast as possible this season what Justin can and cannot do.
Yeah.
Their approach these first 3 games offensively, to me, have, and I think that this brings me to another thing that's been bothering me. I don't want to hear about the lack of reps in the preseason anymore. Like, that was a choice you made. And at the time we were saying, okay, you're worried about him getting hurt because of the guys that are hurt up front. Well, he's going to have to play behind these guys in the regular season. The guy needs reps. So now it's, we're gelling because we didn't get to play together in the preseason. Meanwhile, it seems like every other drive, a new player is getting hurt. So I don't know.
It's a problem. It's a problem. Mm-hmm. Well, and at this point, you have 3 weeks of actual game prep. You have a bunch of snaps over 3 weeks. Nothing's working. Nothing's clicking.
Yeah. By the way,
Counts?
if anybody watching live has any questions, you can drop them in the chat, and we'll probably highlight some of the good questions, and we can throw them on here at the end. I think that's all you had in terms of advanced stats today.
I had you want to do a quick questions before voicemail? I got a question here from Twitter.
Sure.
This is from Rob. Hello, chaps. Love the podcast. Quick question. If Nate Davis can go, would you change the offensive line so that 3 of the 5 of the planned lines start where they're supposed to? Borum, Carter, Whitehair, Davis, right? Rearranging chairs on the Titanic, I realize. So he's talking about moving Jatari Carter to left guard, Whitehair back to center.
So yes. So the thinking there is basically just so let's assume Nate Davis can play this week. He's at right guard. Darnell Wright's at right tackle. So you're going to have that regardless. The question is essentially, do you move Cody Whitehair? That's a long way of asking. Do you move Cody Whitehair back to center?
Yes.
And take Lucas Patrick out?
I don't think they do it.
What do they do, though, when Tevin Jenkins comes back? That's my question. Because it seems like that decision that was made, like, more went into that than just losing Tevin Jenkins. Like, I feel like they weren't necessarily happy with Cody Whitehair at center. But if it's the snapping stuff, like Lucas Patrick snaps have been all over the place too. I mean, when Tevin Jenkins comes back, I think you move Cody Whitehair back to center. I think you have to, right?
For the time being, though, I think Luke Getsy has such an affinity for Lucas Patrick that he's going to play. Like, he trusts him. You're obviously limited offensively with what you could do with him. Like any scout, heck, we see it on film. Every team sees it, but Luke Getsy trusts Lucas Patrick to be his center. And I think that's going to carry more weight until Tevin Jenkins is healthy.
It's very, it makes you feel uneasy, the amount of injuries up front with the offensive line, and then the amount of injuries on the back end on defense with the secondary. I mean, if I'm early looking at this game against the Broncos, that's where I totally understand why the Bears are underdogs. Did you see that clip yesterday of Danny Parkins telling Jalen Johnson that they were underdogs to a team that gave up 70 points?
No, but I saw some of the quotes afterwards.
I mean, you could tell he was like, whoa, like, that's not good.
You know, we're probably a couple weeks away from this, but if you're Jalen Johnson and Darnell Mooney, do you kind of tell the organization to, hey, see who needs help at cornerback? Hey, did I see the receiver get hurt? Do they need help in Cincinnati? Do they need help in LA? I'm saying that because they played last night, but just throwing it out there.
I think especially maybe if you're Darnell Mooney, who's not even getting the ball much right now. So are we going to have another sell-off here before the trade deadline?
If you're Ryan Poles, I think you try to take that approach, because I don't think, unless the money's outstanding and Jalen Johnson and Darnell Mooney really love the situation here, which is, I don't know. Would you if you were a player?
Oh, yeah, if I was a player. My concern is just like, at what point are you going to have – you're talking about how close you are. These trades make you farther away, don't they?
Yeah, no, but if you're Darnell Mooney and they come to you this week with a great extension offer, like, are you signing it right then and there, or do you want to go, like, or do you seriously consider what's happening with this team right now?
I'd probably sign the contract.
You would?
I had 1 target for 0 catches. If they're coming at me with with a big deal, I'm going to sign that.
Well, I guess it's where your priorities are, right?
Yeah. I get what you're saying, though. You're basically wondering, like, do these players want out? Do they want a better situation? Do they want to win somewhere else? I think it's a fair question.
Do they want choice in that better situation? Because if they both get to the point after the season, they're both unrestricted free agents.
But think about what you're asking and how much of a concern that is for where the direction of this thing is headed. And I question even like the idea of trading them, because like what is this? What are these trades turning into? You know, where like at some point these draft picks have to become legitimate players. I understand it's early, but Jervon Dexter, Zach Pickens, what? Like,
I'd even say Jaquan Brisker.
Yes, last year Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. I thought Kyler Gordon had an outstanding training camp, and then unfortunately broke his hand. But still, it's like you traded away Roquan Smith, who was one of your most dependable players, and I'm sorry, but he's missed right now. I don't want to hear about scheme. Like, he's still a good. Like, you need good players. Jalen Johnson right now, to me especially, is still a good player. I don't have really any issues to the start of the season that he's off to. I think he's been playing well.
His situation is different than Darnell Mooney's, because I feel like cornerbacks get paid first before wide receivers, especially like Darnell Mooney's not a tier 1 wide receiver, or like tier 2, tier 3. Jalen Johnson, if he hits the market, could have a lot of impressive offers from contending teams that's looking for that extra piece to take that next step.
Yeah. But I keep going back to something that Josh Lucas said on this show, which was the medicals. Because I think there's still those shoulder concerns, which I kind of find it kind of funny because they really haven't been an issue for the Bears.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But if other teams have that problem, then I don't know. That's to me, that's an extension. You can't afford to lose another good player like that. At least in my opinion, right now.
Well, it's not done yet. Yeah. Do you want to play the voicemails and we'll get to some of these questions?
Yeah, let's do that. So voicemails from Sunday's game. They should be very, very calm and paint a rosy picture and rainbows in the sky and everything's fine here. Here's your voicemails from the Chiefs game on Sunday.
Hello?
Do you know who this is?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The Hoge Jahns voicemail. The Hoge Jahns voicemail line.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep.
Got any questions or comments about the Bears? Give the guys a call before, after, or even during the game.
Go Bears!
Hey, Hoge Jahns. This is John. I'm in Kansas City. First time, long time, you know, the whole thing. To be honest, wearing a Bears jersey, and more people have apologized than they have heckled me. And that just really shows the state of the franchise. I don't know how else to justify it. I think that's all she wrote.
John, only the Bears could have a player that gets concussed and also commits a penalty on the same play.
Everybody who thinks Roschon Johnson is somehow going to be our savior just tripped and fell and then had a holding penalty on third down.
Hoge Jahns, there's 7 minutes left in the second quarter of Week 3 of the NFL season, and the Chicago Bears are on the clock.
Bear down, we suck again. We're down 21-0 before halftime. Bear down, we suck again. Every single defensive back on the team is going to get injured today.
Justin Fields is terrible. Matt Eberflus, terrible. Ryan Poles remains to be seen, but looks terrible. F***ing discipline. Are you kidding me? Khalil Herbert fumbling the football on f***ing real. You know who looked good today? C.J. Stroud looked great. You know who else has looked really good? Caleb Williams. Unbelievable.
You know, watching this game, Kevin Warren has got to be thinking to himself, what the f*** did I just get myself into?
I've composed a poem for the Bears at halftime. Roses are red, violets are blue. The Bears offense sucks. Mark Trestman, is that you?
Well, here we are yet again. Fields just threw his interception. Live at Arrowhead, this sucks. What the hell did we do to deserve this?
I just want to know how it's possible that we're worse than last year after spending all this money. Hashtag fire the Floofs. Let's go.
Hoge Jahns, Bob Dabrowski calling in here from Kansas City here at halftime, and the Bears are just so boring. God, they're just so bad and boring, and everything sucks. The Broncos next week, maybe they can flex that Sunday Night Football to one of the most horrible teams in the history of football. Anyway, go Bears, I guess.
There's no reason to keep going. There's nothing. There's no hope.
Hey, Hoge Jahns, Josh and Indy. I decided to come to the bathroom to give you guys a call because this team is shit. So probably no better place to talk about them.
If Ryan Pauls, Ian Cunningham, Matt Eberflus, Luke Getsy, Richard Hightower, if any of them had any dignity, they would submit their letters of resignation while they're still in Kansas City with an apology note to the city of Chicago.
Guys, are the Bears contagious? Do we make DJ Moore bad?
Guys, blow it the up. This team sucks. Leave Eberflus on the tarmac. Leave the whole coaching staff, all the players on the tarmac.
So how you guys finish the game? Some bourbon, maybe? Because holy shit.
Hey, Adam. Hey, guys. It's Adam from Vernon Hills. Thinking about getting in a car with Bob Dabrowski and just driving, and who knows where we'll go. It's this bad right now, and imagine if they keep it up week 4, week 5. The Broncos game might be the worst game ever played in the National Football League. But shout out Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
I'm sad. I'm just sad. I'm just really sad. I want to look forward to watching football.
It's 41-3, and I was just thinking that the refs should have the same powers as boxing refs to stop a bout or a game in this case where one side is in danger of losing due to their will to live.
The Bears are just nervous playing in front of T. Swift. I mean, can you blame them?
I'm going to sue my parents for emotional damage. Nobody should deal with being a Bears fan.
Everything's and you know the worst part about it is I made my wife a Bears fan.
I had to work 3 elementary football games on Saturday, and the Bears game was easily the worst football game I had to watch.
They did it. The Bears ruined the love that B-Man had for the Bears. B-Man, if you're listening to this, move on.
Hey, Bears fans, B-Man here. You gotta blame Kent for week 1, because I did call, but I'll take the blame for week 2. Here we are, week 3, and well, I don't even know what to say. Bear down.
Hey, Bears fans, B-Man's dad here. I'm 43. I've been through some good times, a whole lot of bad times, and some crazy times as a Bears fan. But do y'all remember a time with this much excitement that turned this bad this quick? It appears we got a lot more sad times to come, but let's do our best to stay positive and bear down!
It's good to have B-Man back.
Yes, it is. There's some good ones in there.
Was that there was one caller, Adam from Vernon Hills, trying to impersonate you?
Yeah, I don't know. Getting in a car with Bob. Yeah, that was an interesting guest call, I think. There, I like the one that was live from Arrowhead. This sucks. That was good.
Oh man,
that summed it up pretty well. Good to hear from B-Man. And damn, he did call week 1. It's messed up. But apparently didn't call week 2. Okay. Well, there's always this week. I'm a little
go ahead.
I'm a little worried about this, like going down White Sox road here. where like there was so much excitement and it just that last call, like how it just fizzled out so quickly. And it does seem like the Bears are different. The Bears fans are different. They're never really ever going to just go away and give up. I think we've learned that over the years that they've been through. They've been through enough already. But this does seem to be teetering a little bit. 13 games in a row. Isn't this a franchise record now?
I don't even want to know.
I think it is. I mean, this is really bad.
I think a lot of that excitement was rooted in what Justin Fields could be and do. A lot of that excitement came from what he was doing as a rusher last season. It was dynamic. It scared the hell out of opposing defensive coordinators. Mike McDaniel told him to stop it. It was something that we've never covered. That type of just
excitement.
It was every time he touched the ball, you had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's excitement in that. Right? It was electric. But you know what? Teams adjust. Defenses, when they have the talent and the speed, they can beat you. Like the Chiefs, they spied him like the entire game.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of concerning me about when you give that advanced stat about how they were actually in man considerably more than zone, and it still was a problem.
Like if you're a defensive coordinator at this point, I feel like you could do almost anything, and you're trying to dare Justin Fields to beat you with his arm. That's what you're doing. Doesn't matter what coverage, because he's not throwing the ball. If you're a defensive coordinator, that's what you're saying. Let's go through these questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's pop these up. All right, Kevin here. If this team goes 0-5, who on the coaching staff becomes the scapegoat, and do they finally hire a defense coordinator with the mini bye?
I mean, who's like your defensive coordinator candidate? Rod Marinelli?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
promote John Hoke.
I think promoting John Hoke's probably the most likely thing that happens, but I think Flus retains play calling. If you go back to what Ryan Poles said last week, it seemed like they might figure that out this week. He alluded to we'll figure out titles and all that next week. He said that. So I don't know if Sunday's game changed anything, but look, you're not changing the scheme in the middle of the season. Even from a bring in somebody new to the staff standpoint, now you're starting over with brand new relationships mid-season. It's a hard thing to do. Could you bring on somebody that helps consult sort of in the background? Is that something Rod Marinelli's interested? Is that something Lovie Smith is interested in? But what's really changing? I mean, it's still the same defense, still the same
players,
philosophies. I don't. A time machine where you can go back and draft Jalen Carter would be nice.
Ed Werder shared some stats, some next gen stats on Jalen Carter this morning. Did you see them?
I didn't, but
do you want me to read them or find them? I'll just sum them up for you. Jalen Carter's a good player, and he's a problem for opposing offenses.
Yeah, it's
beating double teams. But this, I feel like you brought this up a while ago. Like, we knew this would happen. Let's play this out a little bit longer, but we knew he'd be good, especially on that defense.
The best player in the draft fell to you at number 9. It would have been the greatest heist in like the history of the NFL draft.
But we did their approach. I'll just say that. The Bears.
Yeah, but if you don't trust your own organization to take in a talent like that, what does that say about your organization?
Well, let's start with this one from Kenny Hamilton. Do you think Kevin Warren has picked up the phone to sound out Harbaugh yet? Jim Harbaugh, coach of Michigan.
My guess is no. Do I think he should? Maybe.
I think we're all wondering what Kevin Warren is thinking right now.
I'm definitely wondering it. I'm definitely wondering. Because on the table is that he still loves Ryan Poles and these people that are there now.
Although he didn't play he was hired after Ryan Poles, and I get that things are good, or were good, are good. It's just an interesting dynamic to watch.
But that goes back to I was talking to my wife about that last night. It goes back to the stuff you were talking about last week. Like, they never line the stars up correctly at Hallis Hall. They sometimes I think they honestly would have been better off had they kept Pace and Nagy for one more year. If they knew Ted Phillips was going to retire in a year, then hire the team president, then go blow everything up. And yes, it would have been a complete waste of another year. I get it. Or make Ted Phillips retire a year earlier.
It's honestly mind-blowing that they keep doing this. And I wrote a whole column on it, and I do feel like, yes, Justin Fields has been bad, but you can blame the organization for him being like this bad. Like, you could fault the organization for drafting him, and you could also fault the organization for then firing the head coach and GM who drafted him. Then you could be like, why did you allow them to trade up for him? Like, it's mind-blowing sometimes how many layers there are to this and how many quarterbacks get ruined by this process.
Yeah.
Then it's making him go through a rebuild season without any receivers. Like, I get that he has to be better, but if you want to go down that road again in terms of organizational failure, there's so many examples of how they failed this quarterback, the past quarterback, Jay Cutler too.
And now we're sitting here. What do we think the GM that didn't draft him thinks of him? What do we think the team president that didn't hire this GM thinks of the GM?
I need that, like Matthew McConaughey, like aluminum can.
It should go
circle here.
It should go from the top. Okay, hires this guy, this guy, this guy, down to the quarterback. And instead, it's the opposite. It's literally Justin Fields was here first, then the GM, and then the team president. Like, it's all backwards.
Can we go through these next two questions together? This first one's from Philip. Has Flus lost the locker room? And the second one here is from Mike McKnight. Any chance we fire Eberflus and give Poles a chance to get his guy, or do we just fire everyone? It's week 3, man. There's 14 games left.
Yeah. Also, Flus is Poles' guy.
Yes. Has he lost the locker room? No. I'm going to say no right now. It's still early, though. We know how this plays out. What do you think?
Yeah, I maintain what I said last week, that I think that this 2-week stretch is very important. That included the Chiefs game. I did not think that you could go down there and lose the way in which they did and come out of it any healthier, which is partly why I get kind of sick hearing about how close they are, when that was clearly just not the case on Sunday. And so how do they respond again here? The Broncos are not a good football team. Their defense is bad. If you can't score against the Broncos, and I hate to break it to you, though, everything we said about the defense early on in the show, Russell Wilson's playing pretty decent right now. Who's going to stop Russell Wilson on Sunday?
I think what everybody wants to know is whether there's going to be like an early scapegoat for the problems this season, like a message sent. And we've rarely seen that from this Bears organization. And I think, to go back to our earlier point, we're wondering if Kevin Warren will change that philosophy. Like, does he have the power to change that philosophy that George McCaskey has upheld for a long time?
But who would that scapegoat be? That goes back to the question from a few minutes ago. Are we saying Luke Getsy? You didn't develop the quarterback? Okay, who's calling the plays the rest of the season? if Eberflus was an offensive head coach who could then take over play calling, I'd be like, yeah, that's very, very likely.
Do you remember when we covered a team where the head coach made himself the scapegoat twice by taking play calling away from himself?
Yeah. Well, that's still a scenario that could play out. Flus gives up defensive play calling by week 5, 6, 7.
Well, he also gave it to him he has it by default at the moment because his defensive coordinator resigned under certain circumstances.
Fine, but if it still doesn't go well, I mean, that's something I could see happen. But there's a scary lack of play calling experience on both sides of the ball. That it's just like, who do you hand it over to if you make those moves?
Yeah. Well, here's a good question for you. Like, how much of this is actually Luke Getsy's lack of experience in the position? He's supposed to be from that, like, McVay, Shanahan tree by extension through Matt LaFleur, but he's not really from that little – he's not Mike McDaniel, who was part of that inner circle, right?
Right.
He's not even Kevin O'Connell, who was part of that too.
Well, and wasn't his first stint in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy.
So, well, and that's why I think he's trying to bring a blend of, different things. But yeah, he's never really called plays at the NFL level until this. He did it in college, but
either did Nathaniel Hackett when you saw how that played out, speaking of the Denver Broncos.
Yes.
And Nathaniel Hackett was, Luke Getsy's boss for a bit.
Aaron Rodgers was everyone's boss.
True.
Good
point there, Adam Hull. Good point. You're onto something
Bears.
there.
You, Aaron Rodgers.
What else we got, Aaron? When does Justin ask for a trade?
I don't think Justin will do that.
No. Well, maybe in the offseason if they move on from him.
You mean when they finish with a top 2 pick and draft Caleb Williams or Drake May?
If the 49ers got something for Trey Lance, don't you think someone will still look at Justin Fields and look at his running ability and be like, we can get something out of that?
Yes. I think the path I don't want to go down, there's 14 games left here, but like the idea of Fields in his 4th season playing for another new offensive coordinator, like that's like lingering here. Like if you retain Poles or retain Eberflus, like there's got to be changes somewhere. And that would be like an obvious place to make that change at offensive coordinator, given how bad the Bears are already this year. But God, I'm just wondering what's going to happen over the next 14 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's scary. Question here. How much would Miami score on Chicago?
62.
A lot. You watch that game, there were turnovers. Dolphins had a lot of really good field position. Which again, I mean, I do not see the Bears turning the Broncos over the way that they're just not a team that forces takeaways. So Blaine Gabbert's in the game. So, yeah, I mean, you look at that game, Miami had a lot of short fields. And this nonsense that, like, they were running up the score. Like, watch the game. No, they weren't. Broncos weren't tackling anyone.
You know what, though? Like, it's the NFL. And they're all professionals. If you don't like it, stop them. Make the tackle.
They had their backups in the 4th quarter, and they were still scoring.
Mike White, right? Is Mike White?
Yes, Mike White's in the game. What are you it's ridiculous. 55 is how much they would score.
All right. Oh, all right. We've got one more. It's fine. Let's get it in there, Kent. How many years is Flus signed for? I don't think the team announced it. I highly doubt the team will want to pay for 2 coaches if they fire Flus. The team has been They did this to John Fox. It doesn't matter. Matt Nagy, they pay them without being here. They paid Mark Helfrich. Like, it's whatever. But seriously, like, I know what you're saying. I think it actually might be a 5-year deal because that's what has become standard for coaches. And I think that's what Ryan Poles got as well. And usually they link them together. Whatever. They fired coaches and paid them before.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
Again, I think that the big elephant in the room is, what does Kevin Warren think about all this? But again, yeah, it's week 3. They're close. They'll get it all figured out against there. I mean, is there a scenario in which they win these next 2 games? You're playing 2 games in 5 days. Can they be 2 and 3? All of a sudden, it looks a little different. Vikings coming to town after that off a mini bye. Vikings are 0 and 3. And there goes Justin Jefferson, wide open once again. Like, that's the thing. Like, come on, who's stopping that?
Yeah. They could be 2 and 3. They could be 0 and 5, and without any hope. I think that's when you get the dissension, finger pointing that Matt Eberflus doesn't think is there. So when we mentioned rock bottom, this what happened in Kansas City is not it. Like, if they lose to the really bad, to the very bad Broncos, you're heading in that direction.
By the way, my off-season call, did you remember what I said about the Broncos hiring Sean Payton and who it reminded me of?
Sexy.
That whole thing just had John Fox vibes to me. Like, guys.
But at the same point, like, if you had to bet on which coach would fix this for this coming week, like the Super Bowl winner with, the former All-Pro quarterback.
No.
Flus?
I would. Sean Payton. I get it. All right. It goes back to me. Russell Wilson is playing better, despite them being 0 and 3. If you can't find a way to score touchdowns and move the ball in this Broncos defense, it's going to be a problem. But all right. Well, wish it was better vibes in here, but that's just the way it is right now. I don't know what else to tell people. It's either a good thing that they've only played 3 games, or it's really bad that they've only played 3 games. I don't know which way to go around that one right now, but we're still going to be here. We'll be back Thursday. We will preview this game against the Broncos. We'll get the view from Denver on everything, and come back, run it back this week. There's no choice. We'll see if the Bears can. Here, I'll leave on this note, Johns. It's going to be. I think it's going to be an interesting atmosphere at Soldier Field.
Yeah, I feel like the Boo Birds are going to be out early.
It could be kind of toxic, and it'll be interesting to see what type of effect, if any, that has on the McCaskies, on Kevin Warren. If they get off to a great start, it could be fine. But if it gets bad, ugly, remember like Jaquan Brisker being like, you shouldn't boo us? It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, find us on HogeJahns.com. You can find all our merch there, thanks to Obvious Shirts. And you can follow us on Twitter at Hoge Jahns, at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. And you can read Johnsy on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. You get my newsletter through allchgo.com. Diehards there can get the newsletter, and that's going to do it for us on this Tuesday. Got CHGO coming up at noon. We'll be back here on Hoge Jahns on Thursday and preview this game against the Broncos. Talk to you then.
See ya.